Alright, this is like my 80th attempt at recording this video because I was rudely interrupted by Kravik. But now, this is going to be the PvP class tier list. What does that mean? Alright, by PvP, I'm not talking about open PvP, I'm talking about strictly 1v1s on small arena with all of the rules of a 1v1. No heals and no breaking chest for potions. You're only allowed to use the potions that you're started with. Now, so Barbarian, it's going to go all the way at the top, and here's why. Now, Barbarian has abilities like Trauma that decrease enemy defense. It has the Shield Stun, which is one of the meta spells for 1v1s, and Chopping Blows, which you could do from behind during your opponent's Shield Stun and deal a good 500 plus damage, which most times wins you the match. And it also, if you need survivability, it has spells like Calmness that decrease your defense. It decreases your damage as well, but it's morely if you're trying to escape or survive. Now, next class we have Crusader. Now, Crusader would go up here if it wasn't constantly getting nerfed like it's about to, because there's already nerfs for it coming up. More stamina nerfs coming up for it with Prayer for Healing, since that's one of its meta spells. And that's not going to be good for any Crusader player, but Crusader is going to go slightly flawed, but good. It works, and one of its main advantages in a 1v1 situation would be the Angel summoning ability. Since the Angel is the best summon in the game for dealing damage to your opponent, in my opinion, it works really well for 1v1 if you want to constantly spam the Angel summon and distract somebody. Alright, now, sorry, Knight is also going to go slightly flawed, but good. Reason for that, Stunning Blow, Vortex, very good combo. Or you don't even need the Stunning Blow, you can get the Vortex. And the reason it's not going up here is because, one, it's a heavy melee class, so it has slower attacks, and also the Vortex can be countered by any Shield Stun or any Stunning Blow, because you can be stunned mid-Vortex. Alright, next is going to be Priest. Now, Priest is a magic class, meaning it's not really a good class in general, but let's assume that it's an actual decent player who knows how to dodge and avoid attacks. It's someone like me or Compaste or any of those higher up players. I put Priest here. Now, the reason for this, Priest has spells like Solar Cocoon, which heavily decrease damage taken. It has some damage dealing abilities, and it also has Disorients, which work just as well as stuns, and you can just run around in circle and spam with your staff and kill your opponent. No, the only thing you have to watch out for is getting hit or stunned by any melee class, because that's basically going to be the end for you as a magic class. Alright, next, Druid is going to go solid. Now, I would put it at decent, but the only reason it's not going there is because it's meant to be a mana class, but most people who play Druid go the melee Druid path, like most people who play Necro go melee Necro. And if you want to make full use of the Druid abilities, you need to have some points into mana, but that also interferes with your points that are going into Endurance to help you survive as a melee Druid. So Druid's going to go there, and you're not going to be able to pull off summons because the mana cost is too much, and it won't be worth it. Alright, next, Archer. Now, Archer, before pre-stamina change and all that, and all the nerfs, it would probably have been up here, but Archer is fucking terrible, so it's going down here. Archer received a damage nerf. The stamina system made Archer not as good as it used to be. And also, Archer is getting another nerf where the abilities will also cost arrows. And you can't spam jump or roll anymore as archer like you used to be able to. So yeah, now it's just gonna go down there, because once you're like at, I think it's like 3 rolls you have for archer, then you're done, because as soon as any melee class catches up to archer, you're done. And the archer arrows are also not that hard to dodge. Most projectiles aren't that hard to dodge. Alright, mage. Mage is gonna go down there with archer as well. And here's the reason. Now, Mage in itself is not a bad class, but then again, Mage is also more of an AoE class, and it's more for open PvP, not for 1v1s. It could pull off some shit in 1v1s, but its spells, a lot of the spells have cast times and all, and it's pretty difficult if you're playing a mage, even if you're a really good player. Let's say you were a mage in a 1v1 against any shield melee, you would probably have an extremely difficult time keeping up. Next is going to be Paladin. Paladin is going to go slightly flawed, but good. And the reason for that, Paladin has its abilities. It has Shockwave, Earthquake. It has AoE abilities, which are advantages in 1v1s. Knight has, like, for example, Knight has Aura of Blades. On Small Arena, that's an extremely good spell to use, especially 1v1. Because in 1v1s, especially if you're going against any good player, like anybody who's good at dodging, you want to get them cornered and just take as much damage out of them as you can at a time, even if it's small amounts, like 20, 30, 40. And Paladin, no, back to Paladin. Paladin's going up there because of those AoE abilities, and also because it has its stun, and also it has, let's say you're using punishment. If you hit someone with punishment for behind and you have more of a damage Paladin build, whoever you're fighting is basically done unless they're tank build. You just have to know when to jump, when to attack, when to roll away from your opponent, and how not to get hit. So it does take a bit of skill if you want to pull off Paladin 1v1, but it is possible. Next is Rogue. Rogue's going to go decent. Rogue is decent because it's not really what I would say a good class. A lot of people would put it up here, but those are just people who abuse double stun. Now, double stun is good, and it's also annoying as fuck, but in a 1v1 situation, if you're pitting a rogue against a barbarian or a warrior, your double stun, let's say you miss and you get hit by one of their stuns, well, you're basically done at that point, since rogue relies on dexterity. And it's not a full endurance class. Because if you put too much endurance on a rogue, you're basically also committing suicide the same way you with too much dexterity. And the way the rogue stats work in general just doesn't make it a meta 1v1 class in any way. Now, for Necromancer, most people would want to put it down here with Druid because it's kind of the same. But I'm going to put it up here, and here's why. Now, the Necro summons cost less stamina, and since they cost less stamina, you can pull it way off easier in a 1v1, especially in a map like Small Arena. You can summon in distractions or skeletons, which will find a way to damage your opponent that they really can't avoid. And it'll be very annoying for them. And then you have abilities like Graveyard, which you could trap them in. And if you're magic melee, you could do Graveyard, Poison Mist, all that good stuff. But let's say you're going Death Knight, like melee Necro, you have Boneville, a skeleton summon, and another skeleton summon, whatever. You can manage to pull that off really well in a 1v1. And you actually do stand a chance against classes like Warrior or Barbarian as a melee Necro. Or Death Knight, as everyone likes to call it, but Berserk. Okay, before I did have it at decent, and I'm kind of tempted to put it down here at solid, which I'm going to do. So, it's not really, in my opinion, it's the worst of the 3 heavy melee classes. And the only thing I've really done with Berserk is, I managed to pull off the highest damage I've done with any class with Fury and the powerful blow from behind on Kravik in the video where I dealt 2,000 damage exactly. But that's about it, and I don't play Berserk much in PvP, and you can, if you go and play it yourself, you can see why. And yeah, the game is really skill-based, but it's not the type of class that you would want to spend hours playing. And it gets extremely stale after you realize that it's not as good as some of the other ones, especially for PvP, rather it be open or 1v1 PvP. Now, in 1v1 PvP, Berserk actually does... You know what? I'm changing my mind completely. Since this is strictly 1v1 PvP, it's going to go up with decent, because it does have that Ghost of Bear's abilities and the other... I don't remember the name of it, but... which is kind of embarrassing since I should know the name of every ability. It's kind of... But yeah, it has multiple health shipping abilities that are pretty good for 1v1. However, it is still a heavy melee class and is still slow and requires some precise timing if you want to manage to pull it off, especially against shield melees. Now, Warrior could go up here with Barbarian, since it does have the shield stun and piercing strikes and slashing strikes, all that good stuff, which is basically just chopping blows, and then better chopping blows, and it also has the shield up ability. Actually, I wanted to put it here, but thinking about it more, I'm going to leave Warrior up here, because this is strictly no heals 1v1s. And you can play Warrior just as the same playstyle you could play Barbarian with. It's just you hit a bit faster and you have a bit more time to manage stamina. But you can also use abilities like Shield Up, increase your defense. The only thing you have to watch out for when playing Warrior is if you want to use tank abilities like Shield Up, you have to make sure you don't get hit by a stun or chopping blows from, like, let's say, a Barbarian during your cast time for Shield Up. Or I wouldn't recommend using Dome of Shields in a 1v1. It seems kind of pointless. But I'd say this is probably a pretty solid list. I'm sure there could be some arrangements made, especially for the Magic classes, and I'm probably going to get attacked by a bunch of Magic class players, which I'm still going to... Maybe you'll be able to change my mind, but for now, until there's more changes and more nerfs and buffs, this is going to be the solid tier list. Bye.